landing his role on The Odd Couple. He had started in the stage version, replacing Walter Matthau, and then would have the role opposite Tony Randall on the television series from 1970 to 1975. One little fun, interesting thing about Jack Klugman is his passion for popcorn, which I believe he used as a weight loss method. I've read some interviews where he discusses how healthy a snack popcorn is. He was such a fan that he lent his name to a popcorn franchise called Jack's Corn Crib. I never ate at a Jack's Corn Crib, but I love the name Jack's Corn Crib. One bit of trivia that everybody always likes to bring up is, what is Quincy's first name? They never say Quincy's first name on the show, and we never really learn what it is, but we do know what it starts with, because in one episode, you get to see Quincy's business cards, and on it reads Dr. R. Quincy. So his first name begins with R. Is it Robert? Is it Roger? Is it Reggie? It's whatever you want it to be. Just use your imagination. Sam Fujiyama was played by Robert Ito. Robert Ito was born in 1931. He's a Canadian actor, probably best known for his work on Quincy, but he appeared in a host of other TV shows and films, and then would become prolific as a voice actor. Just do a search on Robert Ito, check out his filmography, and look at all the voice work he did. From Avatar: The Last Airbender to Woody Woodpecker. He has made appearances on tons of great cartoons. Gary Wahlberg played Lieutenant Frank Monahan. Garrett Christian Wahlberg passed away in 2012. Worked in a lot of TV shows throughout his career, from the 50s until the early 1990s. Shows like Star Trek, The Fugitive, even the TV show The Odd Couple, where he had a recurring role as Oscar Madison's poker bunny Speed. One of the highlights of his career was his appearance in the very first episode of The Twilight Zone, Where Is Everybody? John S. Reagan played Dr. Robert Aston, another great character actor who appeared in lots of TV shows and movies, including Star Trek The Next Generation, Murder, She Wrote, and on movies, Earthquake and The Parallax View. Reagan was one of these guys who had a very good mustache, and according to Reagan, he thinks that's why he got the role. He was at the Universal Studios restaurant, and Glenn Larson spotted him. He said the hamburger was terrible, but it was well worth it. Why did he wear a mustache? One casting director described his face as very bland, and he started wearing glasses or the mustache, which made him have roles as either a bookkeeper or a lawyer most of the time. Reagan was also one of these people who was a big supporter of Klugman's fight for better scripts. According to Reagan, "It doesn't bother me he's so outspoken about the show. He has allowed me to add information I have researched. He's always asking me to rearrange scenes so they play better. It's a very creative experience." Val Bisaglio played Danny Tovo, Quincy's buddy and the owner of the aptly named Danny's Restaurant. Italo Valentino Bisaglio, born in 1926, a character actor who, in addition to working on Quincy, had a pretty decent role on The Sopranos as Murph Lupo, but would appear on MASH, Barney Miller, Kojak, The Rockford Files, and many, many other things. In films, he's probably best known for a small role, but one he really owns in the John Travolta film Saturday Night Fever, where he plays Frank Monero Sr., the father of Tony Monero, John Travolta's character. Rounding out the cast, you had Joseph Roman as Sergeant Brill, who was Monahan's sidekick, character actor, best known for Quincy. Eddie Garrett played police photographer Ed, who appeared in tons of episodes of the show, but often in very small scenes. Mark Scott Taylor, who would join the show from seasons 4 through 8, started out as a technical advisor. He actually worked in the medical examination field and had the ability to operate things like an electron microscope and other instruments. So they brought him in to be a technical advisor, and it was cheaper to just teach him to act and get him on the show. Slowly but surely, his role would expand, and by season 7, he would become a co-producer on the show. Finally, one of the more interesting casting decisions was to bring on Anita Gillette. Not because Anita Gillette is a controversial actor. She's a very talented actor who appeared in lots of TV shows, movies, and stage, very talented, has worked as recently as 2016 on television, but she would come on to play Dr. Emily Hanover, who Quincy would marry toward the end of the series. Now, it was established that Quincy was a widower who lost his first wife, Helen, before the series started. And so when they showed Helen in flashback, Helen is also played by Anita Gillette. So Quincy's former wife is played by Anita Gillette, and then the woman he married is played by Anita Gillette. So Quincy really has a type, and that type is Anita Gillette. Are you wondering what the best episodes of Quincy ME are? Here's Metagirl with the top 5 episodes of Quincy ME.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Greetings, Retro fans! This is Metagirl, bringing you the top 5 episodes of the forensic pathology procedural Quincy ME. At number 5 is Season 1, Episode 4, Hot Ice, Cold Hearts. This episode, the fourth of 4 feature-length Quincy episodes produced for the NBC Sunday Mystery Movie Series, presents a dreamy 4th of July weekend on Catalina Island that turns into a nightmare of murder. Quincy and his girlfriend Lee are relaxing on his boat on Avalon Bay when he's summoned to assist a seriously ill swimmer. After the man's death, Quincy determines that the swimmer had been poisoned by a deadly stonefish, a creature not found in local waters. Has the venomous fish migrated to Catalina? Could trusting tourists be subject to fishy fatalities? Becoming convinced that the swimmer was the victim of foul play, an idea reinforced when Quincy is mugged and biological samples from the dead man stolen, Quincy investigates further, much to the chagrin of bureaucrats near and far. His inquiries uncover a multi-million-dollar jewel heist and an international conspiracy. Number 4 is Season 1, Episode 8, Visitors in Paradise. Quincy and Danny go on a fishing trip to the lakeside town of Paradise. Just as they drop their lines in the water, a young woman pulls her boat alongside theirs and thanks Quincy for coming to reassess the closed case of her mother's murder, for which her allegedly innocent father rots in jail. Quincy has no idea what she's talking about. It's an obvious case of mistaken identity, yet he is so moved by her tragic tale that he can't resist helping. The more that Quincy digs into the closed case, the more trouble comes his way as local thugs try to thwart his investigation with brute force. In the end, a new forensic test permits Quincy to tell the difference between male and female blood, which is the key to targeting the truth. An interesting bit of trivia, Jamie Lee Curtis made her on-screen debut as Girl in Dressing Room in this notable episode of Quincy. Number 3 is Snake Eyes, Part 1 and 2, Episodes 5 and 6 from Season 1. Lee and Danny tag along with Quincy to a coroner's convention at a Lake Tahoe resort. They all enjoy some entertainment, including gambling and stand-up comedy from Ronnie Fletcher, played by the great Buddy Hackett. But the fun and games don't last long, as hotel guests and staff become stricken by a mysterious and deadly illness. Quincy teams up with a few other coroners, but the cause of the sickness eludes them. Exacerbating the tense situation, the resort owner doesn't want to concede the calamity, fearing a battering to his bottom line. Quincy does his utmost to contain panicked guests, trying to keep the highly virulent disease from spreading from the hotel to the outside world, perhaps starting a pandemic. At number 2 is Season 4, Episode 13, The Depth of Beauty. Quincy delves into the world of cosmetic surgery after he autopsies a woman who committed suicide because she hated the scars caused by a botched operation performed by the seemingly inept Dr. Emil Green. When confronted by Quincy, Dr. Green denies responsibility and callously blames his victims for neglecting his aftercare instructions. Quincy discovers that Dr. Green is not even a qualified plastic surgeon, but rather a gynecologist. Learning that the law allows doctors to practice any specialty they choose, regardless of certification, Quincy crusades to close this legal loophole, or at least shut down Dr. Green. Via an ad in the newspaper, Quincy tries to gather enough victims for the district attorney to file criminal charges against Dr. Green. One respondent is a former movie star who tells her tragic tale on a late-night talk show, which ultimately mobilizes the law against the diabolical doctor. And the number 1 episode of Quincy ME is Season 5, Episode 21, Deadly Arena. When 3 people die as the result of botulism poisoning, Quincy, in collaboration with Dr. Janet Carlisle of the Department of Health Services, tries to find the link between the victims. They discover that all 3 had visited Franklin Stadium, the fictitious name for the LA Memorial Coliseum, where much of the episode was shot on location. Worried about the potential cancellation of the upcoming World Cup soccer game, the stadium's manager resists the investigation, saying, "Nothing short of a bomb threat could keep this game from going on as scheduled." To which Quincy replied, "You've got a bomb, a biologic bomb. If you let this game go on as scheduled, you'll be playing Russian roulette with 90,000 lives. Doctors Quincy and Carlisle race against time to find the source of the deadly toxin and prevent the worst health disaster ever known. And there you have it, the Retroist's top 5 episodes of the classic medical mystery show, Quincy ME. Until next time, list fans, this has been Metagirl.
Thanks, Metagirl. Quincy would become famous for its preachiness. Quincy liked to give a good lecture and talk about a societal issue that we're not aware of. Sometimes those would work to great effect when he would be talking about things like eating disorders or orphan drugs, but sometimes they would come across a little odd, like in Next Stop Nowhere, where Quincy talks about the detrimental effects of punk rock music in very dramatic ways. And even at the time, people were criticizing the TV show for that. I really enjoy seeing these moments now, not because I find them poorly written and think it's funny. It's a little funny, but more because you do get this snapshot of what it looks like when generations try to figure out what is going on in the world. When you have someone like Quincy, who is a bit older, and he's going into punk rock clubs, or at least TV versions of punk rock clubs, and not understanding the changes that have happened around him. On early 80s television, you actually didn't get to see a lot of representations of things like punk music. And while Quincy's interpretation of it was a little cartoonish and weird, at least we got to see something like it. The Quincy theme song is pretty wonderful, and they had some great musical talent behind the scenes of the show, including people like Stu Phillips and Bruce Broughton. Bruce Broughton provided the music for much of Quincy. He's credited with 65 episodes. He would work on movies and television shows, movies like Tombstone and Young Sherlock Holmes. And on TV, he would work on things like Dallas and Hawaii Five-0. Just a prolific talent. Oddly enough, despite all of this talent, the theme song to Quincy, which is probably the most famous part, was actually composed by the producer of the show, Glenn A. Larson, who, in addition to being a producer, was a talented musician. He would often write the themes for TV shows that he produced. And while it was often a practice that a producer would demand that their name be put on the theme song as a composer to receive some of the royalties, sometimes they would even do something cheesy like write lyrics so that they could get some sort of royalty for it. Larson was actually a real music composer and did a really good job on lots of TV shows as both a producer and a composer of theme songs. Quincy was very well received almost immediately. The ratings for it were solid, which is why it would get decent reviews. But even years later, for example, in 1980, the show was finishing in the top 10 with numbers like 16.6 million people watching it on any given night that it would be broadcast, which is impressive. But it also explains the staying power of the show and why it would get a run of 8 seasons for a total of 148 episodes. And the show would go into syndication pretty quickly and not only get shown in the United States, but also overseas, starting in 1976 when Quincy was originally broadcast in Canada. It would then go on to other countries, the UK in 1977, Japan in 1979, Germany in 1981, and then in the mid-80s in Italy. And now the show still gets broadcast worldwide, and its fandom stretches across the globe, which is why the show is available on home video. It took some time, but slowly but surely, every season of Quincy was released on DVD, all of which you can get now. From time to time, the show was put onto streaming services, Unfortunately, right now, Quincy is only available on DVD. With all of the streaming services that keep popping up, including one by NBC, I do think we'll eventually see streaming of Quincy once again. Fortunately for fans, services like YouTube occasionally get episodes uploaded there, so if you want to watch an episode, just do a search from time to time, and you'll find a few on.